My life smells like expensive coffee and clean ambition. That's the scent of the 45th floor at Nexus Dynamics, one of the biggest tech companies in Seattle. Look up the name Chloe Davies, and you'll find a resume that screams perfect corporate success. 32 years old, Senior Director of Communications, specializing in high-stakes crisis management. I wear Armani suits. I negotiate multi-million-dollar deals, and I never, ever lose my composure. My composure is my armor. It's what allowed me to climb out of the broken-down trailer park in rural Nevada, where I grew up. Every suit, every degree, every perfectly crafted press release is a deliberate wall built between Chloe Davies, the successful executive, and the terrified, broke teenager I once was. I'm engaged to Ethan, a brilliant, grounded architect. Our wedding is 6 months away. He knows I came from nothing, but he believes my past is just a story about hard work and resilience. He doesn't know the dark, quiet compromise I made to fund my escape. When I was 18, desperate to pay for my first year of community college and get away from my unstable home, I took a second job, not waitressing, not retail. I worked online. I created an identity persona that existed only in the shadowy corners of the internet. A young woman with an assumed name, Leela Sky, hosting private, sometimes revealing, chat sessions for lonely men late at night. It was humiliating. It was emotionally draining. And it was a direct line to cash. No one I knew ever found out. After I earned enough to cover that crucial first tuition payment, I deleted the profile, erased the email, and swore I would never look back. Leela Sky died the day Chloe Davies started college. Or so I thought. The day everything threatened to unravel started with the kind of crisis I am paid millions to manage. Nexus Dynamics, the company I represent, suffered a colossal data breach. Millions of user files, including personal financial data and private messages, were stolen. It was a PR nightmare of epic proportions, and my CEO, Mr. Vance, immediately put me in charge of the response. Chloe, you are our shield, Mr. Vance stated, his face pale and serious during the emergency meeting. The media is calling this the Nexus leak. We need a face of unwavering confidence. We need to control the narrative. We need you. This was my moment. I was cold, precise, and utterly focused. I drafted statements, managed the legal team's messaging, and stood at the press podium, fielding hostile questions with the icy calm that defines me. I was good at this because I understood fear and vulnerability. I just knew how to hide it. I spent 3 days running on 2 hours of sleep, living in the corporate war room. I was untouchable. Then, late on the third night, as the worst of the media firestorm began to subside, my personal phone buzzed with an anonymous email. It wasn't sent to my corporate account, which meant the sender was specifically targeting me, not the company. The subject line was short and terrifying. Leela Sky is back online. My heart instantly slammed against my ribs. I felt the meticulous composure I had cultivated for 15 years crack down the middle. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I opened the email. The message was minimal, but devastating. I have been looking into the Nexus leak victims. One found a few interesting, long-dormant profiles connected to the incident. One of them belongs to a woman named Leela Sky. I saw your press conference, Ms. Davies. You look familiar. The difference between a private chat session and a global data breach is just a matter of scale, isn't it? I'm not the police. I'm a researcher. But if I can find this old profile, so can the thousands of journalists digging into Nexuses. Leadership, you have 48 hours to prepare your statement before I decide whether or not to include Leela Sky. In my next public report, the email contained a screenshot. It was blurry, low resolution, but unmistakable. a chat profile from 15 years ago, using the name Leela Sky, and an extremely old, poorly lit photo of my face from when I was barely out of high school. The ghost profile. It hadn't been completely erased. It had just been dormant, waiting like a silent virus. My mind raced. This wasn't a corporate threat. This was an existential threat. If this profile, my shameful, desperate past was exposed now, during the most sensitive PR crisis in company history, it wouldn't just ruin me. It would provide the perfect weapon for our competitors or the angry public to discredit the entire crisis response. How can we trust a company run by a liar? And Ethan, he believed I had worked 3 minimum wage jobs to pay for college. If he saw this, the foundation of our entire life together would crumble. I realized the anonymous sender wasn't a journalist. They were an activist or maybe a rival firm using the data leak as cover to blackmail or expose me. My immediate response was to go into full crisis management mode. But this time, the client was me. I had to maintain the illusion of control in the war room while fighting a secret, terrifying battle for my own identity. I immediately called the one person I could trust who operated outside the corporate world. Jaden Khan. Jaden was a freelance cybersecurity consultant I'd used years ago for a minor corporate espionage. Issue a woman known for her surgical precision and absolute discretion. Jaden, I need you. Now, I said, my voice dangerously low. Private contract. Absolute secrecy. And the price is whatever you name it. Chloe, I'm busy. What's the fire? Jaden asked, her voice calm and professional. The fire is my past. I have an old, sensitive online profile, a long dead ghost. Someone found it, connected it to the Nexus leak, and is threatening to make it public. If this gets out, I'm done. Nexus is done. I need you to find that profile and delete it completely, permanently, before the end of tomorrow. There was a long silence on the line. A ghost profile tied to a major data leak. That's messy, Chloe. That's not just deletion. That's deep forensics and counterintel. This will cost you 6 figures, paid up front, no questions asked. Done, I said instantly. The massive figure barely registering. 6 figures was the price of my life, my future, and my carefully constructed identity. I hung up. The exhaustion of the past 3 days replaced by a frantic, cold energy. I had to manage the biggest corporate crisis of my career, while simultaneously fighting to erase the proof that I was exactly the kind of deceptive person the public shouldn't trust. The clock was ticking. I had less than 24 hours to erase Leela Sky before she brought down Chloe Davies and the entire Nexus Corporation with her. The war room at Nexus Dynamics was a vortex of noise, fear, and caffeine. But for me, the real war was being fought silently on my encrypted personal laptop, hidden under a pile of legal briefs. I had 48 hours, now closer to 30, to erase a ghost that threatened to expose my desperate past and demolish my polished present. The demands of the official crisis were relentless. The CEO, Mr. Vance, was sweating credibility. Chloe, the stock dropped another 5 points. We need a definitive statement by noon. Something to calm the shareholders, Mr. Vance demanded, his voice tight with desperation. We can't rush the legal team, sir, I replied, my voice steady, my eye contact firm. Rushing breeds mistakes. We maintain our current line. Full cooperation, zero tolerance for negligence, and comprehensive user compensation. We are the steady hand. I sounded like a robot, precise. Expensive, human machine. No one in that room could possibly know that while I was defending the company's integrity, my focus was split. Half on the massive data leak, and half on the tiny, fragile profile named Leela Sky. I was constantly messaging Jaden Khan, the cybersecurity specialist. She was my shadow operative, working remotely from some undisclosed location, diving into the digital depths to find my 15-year-old shame. Jaden encrypted chat. I've located the server cluster. It's an old, poorly maintained archive, exactly what a lazy researcher would find. But the encryption keys are weak. I need 12 hours, uninterrupted, to initiate a cascade deletion. Me. You don't have 12 hours. Jaden, I need confirmation of erasure before the press cycle starts tomorrow morning. If the original researcher publishes, we are finished. Jaden encrypted chat. Then I need more money. Double the original fee. I'll need to bypass standard protocols, which carries significant risk. This is premium panic pricing, Chloe. I didn't hesitate. Done. Get it done. Jaden, don't contact me again unless it's done. I transferred another massive chunk of my savings money intended for the down payment on the house. Ethan and I were designing to Jaden's offshore account. The financial drain was painful, but the thought of that profile going public was unbearable. That night, I finally left the war room after 40 hours straight. The ride share dropped me off at the luxury apartment building Ethan and I shared. The building felt like a glass cage, reflecting my own trapped ambition. Ethan was waiting for me. He was standing in the kitchen. The soft scent of the dinner he'd made, a lasagna he knew I loved, filling the air. He looked tired, worried. Chloe, honey, you look like you haven't slept in a week, Ethan said, immediately walking over to hug me. He held me tight, and for a second, my professional armor slipped. It's hell, Ethan. Pure hell. The press is relentless. Every decision is 7 figures, I admitted, keeping the lie close. I know the company crisis is bad, but you're doing amazing, he assured me, pulling away slightly. But his eyes held a new, uneasy look. But you're acting strange, Chloe. You're always on that separate phone, texting in code. And your laptop screen, I saw you close it quickly when I walked in. Why are you hiding things from me? This was the second layer of the crisis, managing my past while managing the man who was my future. It's sensitive internal security. I lied, keeping my voice firm and professional. Legal requires me to use an encrypted chat with the forensics team. It's highly classified. Even I can't talk about it. I'm sorry, but my work has to stay separate right now. He paused, studying my face, the perfect lie detector. He's an architect. He designs structures based on trust and stability, and he could sense the instability in my explanation. I understand confidentiality, Chloe, but you just transferred a huge amount of money today. My bank sent me an alert, a joint account transfer. Where is all that money going? We were supposed to use that for the kitchen remodel. The air thickened. My personal life was colliding violently with my secret past. It's a retainer, I explained, scrambling for the technical jargon I usually used to intimidate clients. A specialized security retainer. We had to hire external consultants immediately to find the source of the leak, and they require a massive upfront payment, often from personal accounts. For speed and discretion. Ethan's face hardened. Personal accounts. Your company, Nexus Dynamics, a multi-billion-dollar entity, can't pay its own forensics team. Why did you use our money, Chloe, without even telling me? I couldn't tell him the truth. That money is paying a hacker to destroy the evidence that I posed in lingerie 15 years ago. To pay for my sociology class. It was an emergency bridge loan to expedite the process, Ethan. Time is everything right now. I snapped, the professional calm finally failing me. I'll repay it, with interest, as soon as the company lawyers clear the emergency funds. I am trying to save my job in this company, Ethan. You need to trust me. I turned my back on him, walking quickly to the window, staring out at the dazzling, indifferent lights of Seattle. I do trust you, Ethan said softly, his voice heavy with disappointment. "But I don't trust what you've become. You are always so guarded. It feels like you're building walls around us, too." That night, I didn't sleep in the bed. I sat in the guest room, my personal phone glued to my hand, waiting for Jaden's message. The emotional drain of managing both crises, the corporate one and the personal one, was starting to show. I was slipping up. My statements at the press conference the next morning were sharper, bordering on aggressive, something my training had always warned against. I was losing control of the narrative, both at work and at home. Meanwhile, Jaden was hitting roadblocks. Jaden encrypted chat. 4 a.m., the anonymous researcher is sophisticated. They didn't just find the profile. They archived the chat logs and metadata. Full deletion is proving difficult. They stored the files on multiple cloud backups. We need a distraction. Me. No distractions. Just results. I need confirmation within the next 4 hours. Jaden encrypted chat. 5:30 a.m. Look, I can get 99% of it, enough to make it non-traceable. But the original screenshot, the one they sent you, they still have that. And the original researcher is planning to go public with their initial findings in 3 hours. 3 hours. The press conference was scheduled for 9 a.m. I had to face the cameras, knowing that at any moment, a headline could drop. Nexus spokesperson tied to shady online past lies to public. I looked at my perfect reflection in the bathroom mirror, the flawless makeup, the calm eyes, the expensive suit, the image of the powerful, trustworthy executive. Underneath, I was just Leela Sky, terrified and backed into a corner, fighting for survival. I made the final, desperate decision. I had to preempt the researcher. I had to secure the final piece of the puzzle. I had to find the anonymous source's identity myself. It was 6 a.m. The air outside was the gray, damp chill that Seattle specializes in. I was back in the Nexus war room, putting on the face of the unflappable executive, but inside, I was operating on pure adrenaline and terror. The clock Jaden gave me was ticking down. The anonymous researcher was planning to publish in 3 hours. I knew deleting the profile wasn't enough. The researcher had the original screenshots and metadata. They were holding the gun, and the only way to disarm them was to know exactly who they were and where they would post the information first. I excused myself from the executive briefing, claiming I needed to finalize the legal statement, and locked myself in a small utility room near the elevator banks. I pulled out my personal laptop. I needed to act like a cybersecurity analyst, not a communications director. I messaged Jaden immediately. Me. Forget the deletion. Who is the researcher? You need to trace the original IP of the threatening email. Find the source. Jaden encrypted chat. 6:15 a.m. Tracing an anonymous mail through the Nexus leak architecture is nearly impossible. They used multiple masking proxies, but the language in the thread was specific. They mentioned Leela Sky was connected to Nexus League victims. Maybe they're a victim themselves. That gave me a new angle. I quickly pulled up the internal list of high-profile Data League victims, the ones who had been most vocal about suing the company. I was looking for anyone who had previously shown an interest in amateur cyber research, or had publicly demanded information about all dormant accounts. The list was long, but one name jumped out. Mark Chen, a former mid-level programmer at a rival tech firm, fired for insubordination, now running a popular, aggressive tech ethics blog focused on holding large corporations accountable. He was bitter, smart, and had the technical skills. He was exactly the kind of person who would call himself a researcher. I found his public email address. I decided on the riskiest play of my life, direct confrontation. I drafted a new email, bypassing all my corporate safety measures. I wasn't Chloe Davies, the communications director. In that moment, I was Leela Sky, fighting for her life. Me to Mark Chen's public address. Mr. Chen, I know you plan to release a report on the Nexus League victims today. Before you do, I need to talk to you about Leela Sky. The response was immediate. Mark Chen, impressive. You are as fast as they say. I am always open to conversation, Ms. Davies. I like transparency. Meet me in the coffee shop across from your building in 1 hour. Alone. Bring your resignation letter. Resignation letter. He wasn't interested in the money. He was interested in public humiliation and the destruction of a corporate figurehead. He wanted to make an example of me. I looked at the clock. 7:15 a.m. I had just enough time. I rushed back to the war room, telling Mr. Vance I had an emergency off-site strategy meeting with a key media contact. He didn't question me. My word was law during the crisis. As I walked out, I had to pass my apartment building to get to the coffee shop. I decided to change out of my suit screamed Nexus. I needed to look like an ordinary person making a private mistake. When I arrived at my apartment, Ethan was still awake, sitting on the sofa, staring at the financial printouts from the large transfer I made to Jaden. The lasagna from the night before was still sitting on the counter, untouched. He looked up at me as I rushed in, peeling off my Nexus blazer. Chloe, where are you going? You look like you're running from the police, Ethan demanded, his voice low and strained. I have to go, Ethan. It's a key meeting. I'm close to neutralizing a major threat, I replied, trying to avoid his eyes as I grabbed a simple trench coat. He stood up, blocking the door. The threat. Is the threat the six-figure hole in our savings account, Chloe? Is that what this is about? The panic was rising. I had to leave now. Ethan, please, step aside. I can't explain right now. It is a time-sensitive, life-or-death situation for my career. I insisted, trying to push past him. He held my arms firmly. No, not until you tell me why you look like you're about to vomit. Last night, you lied about the money. Now you're running out dressed like a spy. Tell me the truth about this other phone, this secret contact, and where our down payment went. I looked into his eyes. The man I was supposed to marry, the man whose trust I had to shatter to protect my secret. The coffee shop meeting was minutes away. Fine. You want the truth, Ethan. I'm chasing a blackmailer, I admitted. Choosing a partial truth that was dramatic but less damning than the full revelation. A very dangerous one. They found something from my past, something embarrassing and potentially career-ending. And they are using it to disrupt Nexus's crisis response. If I don't stop him now, I lose everything. Ethan released my arms, his face etched with concern. A blackmailer? Why didn't you tell the police? Or Mr. Vance? Because the information is toxic. I shouted, the volume of my voice surprising even me. I can't let it get out, Ethan. I have to manage it myself. You have to let me go. I promise I will tell you the full story when this is over. But if I miss this meeting, the truth comes out. He looked at me for a long moment. The man who designed his life around stability, looking at the woman who thrived in chaos. Finally, he stepped aside. The unspoken question, is this embarrassment worse than losing your fiancé's trust? Hanging in the air. I drove to the coffee shop like a madwoman. I walked in at 8 a.m. sharp. Mark Chen was exactly how I pictured him, intense. In his early 40s, wearing glasses and a smug, self-satisfied look. He had a battered laptop and a single cold cup of black coffee. He didn't greet me. I appreciate the punctuality, Ms. Davies, he said, pointing to the laptop screen. I was about to hit publish. Your resignation would have been the perfect closing paragraph. Mark, let's talk, I said, sitting down heavily. What is it you want? A public apology? A settlement? You want to expose a 20-something's desperate mistake to score points against a major corporation. That makes you look like a bully, not an activist. I want justice, he countered, leaning forward. I lost my job at the rival firm because Nexus filed a false patent claim. You think I care about your little chat profile? No. I care about the hypocrisy. You stand up there, preaching integrity, while your own past is a testament to deception. He slid the laptop toward me. The headline on his draft article was chilling: Crisis Manager's Double Life. Nexus spokesperson Chloe Davies is Leela Sky. Below it was the blurry screenshot from my past, alongside a current, professional headshot. The contrast was devastating. I needed the money for college, I confessed, dropping the corporate mask completely. My family had nothing. It was either that or quit school. It was an 18-year-old's desperate choice. And the choices have consequences, he said, his tone unwavering. I hit publish at 9 a.m. sharp. Unless I get your resignation and a statement detailing Nexus's ethical malpractice, I release this. It was 8:30 a.m. 30 minutes. I looked at the screen. I saw my shame, my past, my future all hanging on the edge of a keyboard button. I couldn't resign. Resigning meant admitting guilt, allowing him to publish his toxic article, and letting the entire Nexus crisis management effort collapse. It would be an absolute win for the corporate rivals and a disaster for the shareholders. You win the moral argument, Mark, I said, pulling out a napkin and writing quickly. But you don't win the war. You want a corporate statement. Here it is. I quickly drafted a short, concise, emotionally intelligent statement. Exactly the kind I taught my team to write, an acknowledgement of past mistakes, a focus on present integrity, and a promise to address the core issue of the data leak with renewed commitment. Crucially, I didn't resign. You release this statement instead of the full article, I told him, sliding the napkin across the table. I publicly acknowledge a past lapse in judgment during my impoverished youth, but I frame it as a testament to my drive to overcome obstacles. I take the hit, but I control the narrative. You get your public scalp, and Nexus gets to keep its crisis manager. I looked him straight in the eye, unleashing the full, terrifying force of the corporate crisis manager I truly was. Or you publish the full, malicious article. I deny everything. I sue you for libel. And I bury you in legal fees until you lose that pathetic blog and your apartment. You get exposure, but you get destruction. Which one, Mark? Justice or ruin? I was gambling everything on his stated goal of justice over personal gain. It was 8:45 a.m. I had given Mark Chen my final offer: control the narrative with my statement, or face a crippling legal battle that would silence him forever. The coffee shop was buzzing around us, entirely oblivious to the career-ending, life-shattering negotiation taking place at our small table. Mark stared at the napkin where I had scrawled my counter-statement. He was reading my words, a carefully balanced admission of an isolated, desperate lapse in judgment during a period of extreme financial distress in my youth. It was a textbook crisis diffusion, leveraging sympathy while maintaining present authority. He looked up at me, his eyes narrowed. "You're good, Ms. Davies," Mark said. "You take the pain and turn it into pity. You're trying to win back the public's trust by exploiting your own vulnerability." I answered him. "I am simply living and managing the truth." "Mark, you said you aimed for corporate ethics, not the exposure of a young woman's desperation. Now, expose me. But if you do, the crisis management collapses and the guilty parties at Nexus walk free. Or publish the statement I prepared and show how much the corporate world relies on people cleaning up their own pasts. The choice is yours." It was 8:58 a.m. Only 2 minutes remained. Mark Chen reached for his laptop with trembling hands. I held my breath, waiting. He copied the text I gave him and pasted it below the draft headline of his blog. At 9 a.m. A new article was published on Mark's blog. The headline was less destructive than I feared. Nexus Crisis Manager acknowledges shady past. Can we trust the corporate image? The article did not publish the direct image of the Leela Sky profile that would have ruined me. Instead, it used my signed quote. Relishing this small victory, I quickly left the coffee shop. When I rushed back to the Nexus headquarters, the storm had already begun. The board of directors had seen the article. Vance cornered me in the war room, his face white. Chloe, what is this? What is this embarrassing story about your past? A moral lapse. The media is going crazy, he shouted. I grabbed his arm and pulled him into a smaller, vacant office. This is a masterpiece of crisis management, Mr. Vance, I explained, my voice sharp and cold. Someone anonymous found something shameful in my past. If we had hidden it and lied, our reputation would have been destroyed. What did I do? I got ahead of it. I seized control. I told him. People forgive a victim who sacrifices her past shame to save a corporation. This humanized the crisis. I shielded the company by making myself the target. Now, we take this story and spin it into the narrative of the ambitious leader who overcame poverty. The media's focus will shift from the data leak to my personal past. Mr. Vance stared at me for a long moment, his expression a mix of shock and admiration. Then, he nodded. You are truly insane, Chloe. But you are right. Schedule a press briefing immediately. We will celebrate your past. He ordered. My career was saved. In fact, it was reinforced. The media began to present me as a survivor and an honest leader. I was no longer just an executive. I was an icon. However, I paid the greatest price for my victory that evening. When I returned home, Ethan wasn't waiting for me. The apartment was silent and meticulously clean. In the middle of the kitchen counter, I saw my engagement ring. It was placed on top of an envelope. I tore open the envelope. Ethan's handwriting was neat and sharp, like his architectural blueprints. In his letter, he wrote, Chloe, I accepted you as you are an ambitious woman who came from nothing, but you are paying the price of a life you never shared with me. I believe you love me, but your loyalty to your job, your image, and your secrets is greater than anything between us. I cannot build a life on this lie. My knees buckled as I read the letter. He had salvaged my crisis management, but he had shattered my heart. I had overcome a global crisis, but I had lost the most important structure in my own home. I called him immediately. He didn't answer. I sent him a text message. I wrote, Ethan, I swear, it was just a mistake from the past. It only happened once. I lied to protect you. A short time later, I received a reply. He wrote, Don't lecture me on honesty, Chloe. I admire the woman who sacrificed a shameful secret from her past to save thousands of lives. But to hide that secret from me, you paid the ultimate price, my trust. Go and build your image. I didn't need you. You needed me. I never heard from Ethan again. The greatest tragedy for me was this. I had always been the one in control in my career. But Ethan's love was the only thing I couldn't control. I lost him with the money I spent to erase my past. I continued to rise at Nexus. I was now the media's darling. But after every successful meeting, I returned to that empty apartment. At home, I faced not Ray's silence, but Ethan's void. Sometimes I wonder. I wish I had told Mark Chen the whole truth that day and been completely honest. Even if my career had ended, maybe I could have saved Ethan. But I always believed in my corporate image. I always believed that Chloe Davies was more valuable than Leela Sky. Now I understand that the price paid to erase the past always takes something from the future. My future is trapped between those glass walls on the 45th floor, masked by success, and defined by loneliness. And my life, no matter how bright it shines, will always live in the shadow of that ghost profile.